Okay, guys, welcome to the show. This is Pizza Cultura, part of the Pizza Club Network. I'm one of your hosts, Tom, along with Pepe and our resident pizza historian, Peter. Okay, look, we've got a light-hearted one for you today. We're talking about pizza gimmicks, things like the giant pizza slices, the pizza, which was, if memory serves, kind of a hamburger base with pizza on top, double-decker pizzas, all those kind of things. And then it'll probably just devolve into a general discussion of the whole hype over substance. Okay, on with the show. I mean, look, just for Peter and Pepe, look, aside from the things that I just mentioned, um, are there any others that spring to mind for you guys when you think of kind of pizza gimmicks? There's one in
Wow, what a
particular,
question. I would
Pepe, that I'm
actually,
kind of wondering if you're going to bring up, but
I will actually leave it to Peter because I'm really curious to hear what he says, especially to understand what do you mean by pizza gimmicks from your point of
well,
view.
sorry, just to clarify, like we said, the whole kind of hype over substance to try and drum up a hoo ha on social media. That's basically the gimmicky.
Hype over substance. That can be so many things. The obvious one is pineapple pizza. Bigger is better. Various add-ons that you can do. Chicago's famous for, at least in the past, has a history of RC cola. So if you get a big slice, you get a cola free. Um, Bigger is better is a big thing. That really caught on for the Midwest, particularly with cheese. That was sort of an assumption that they think that they could pile on a lot of cheese and that would be better. Toppings, anchovies falls out, sausage comes in, and has stayed in. Have there been any gimmicks? The really sort of gimmicky one, I was sort of thinking before the show, like gimmicks to me are sort of fads that don't work out typically. But the
Yeah,
one that
they're things that are done for no inherent value and don't really make the pizza better. It's just something to pop on social media, basically. Like I don't know if you heard about this one, Peter, but there was the $2,000 gold leaf pizza down in Financial
yeah.
District where some asshat decided to put, God knows how much gold and charge $2,000 for a bad pizza.
Well, there's a separate category in the last 10 years or so that Instagram has definitely changed things so that taste used to dominate, but on Instagram, obviously, the visuals will dominate. So you're
Yeah.
taking visual over taste, which is, it's going to be interesting to see how long lasting that could be. But I was trying to get to the point where even pre-web, pre-2000 in Chicago in the 70s, one thing that was an innovation that sort of happened, if you could say that, that has sort of stuck out, and I do think has some value. I was trying to think of out loud, like, was there any innovation that actually contributed to the long run of pizza? And stuffed pizza with spinach did actually work. It does sort of work as a sort of a concept. It's not too heavy. It's tasty. And it seemingly started here in Chicago sometime in the early 70s. And so that
Would I
was sort
mean
of, sorry,
would
go.
you class stuffed crust pizza in general as a kind of gimmick? Because I mean, I remember seeing it, the stuffed crust Pizza Hut things, and that was definitely a gimmick in the UK. But I know that some parts of the US have that as a legitimate thing.
Right. So this gets into the history of Chicago a little bit. So bear with me a little bit. But it started with deep dish in the 40s, which eventually in the 60s became pizza in the pan as a big sort of concept innovation when it became really popular. And in the early 70s, they had a sort of a reinvention, a rediscovery of what was already existing in Italy at the time, stuffed pizza. And part of the stuffing was spinach for that one. If you made it with cheese, it was almost too overwhelming, but Chicago being Chicago, we love that too. So in the early 70s, it became a huge phenomenon to the extent that people would wait around the block just to get their stuffed pizzas. This is distinct from what Pizza Hut was doing with their stuffed in the crust. We're talking about two
Okay.
actual layers of crust on top of each other, the top one being very, very thin, almost to the extent that you don't even notice it in it, and the sauce on top of that crust. So that's sort of Chicago stuffed style pizza. That was the one example I could think of that actually is an innovation or a gimmick, if you want to call it a gimmick.
I wouldn't say.
Well, I was trying to conceive of the gimmick as being part of a larger picture of innovation, such that the proprietor of the pizzeria is trying to, to be charitable, trying to find an underserved market, trying to add value some way, and trying to reach out of the box. Such a thing we could probably think of in the 1800s, that the person who decided to put cheese and sauce together, whoever that might be, Pepe, was doing a gimmick too, maybe. So I don't want to be too pejorative, even though the vast amount of them are gimmicks.
No, I mean, I think you've hit upon a point that speaks to, the kind of substrate of the discussion, which is that there is a tipping point at which, there's some actual value added from quote unquote gimmicks, but then there's the ones that are complete nonsense. Like having a pizza slice that's, the size of an average human's torso or something like that. Like
right.
I don't really get it. And having, like 4 pizzas stacked, it's silly. But yeah, Pepe, there's one in particular that has kind of started to, or not started to do the rounds, that's done the rounds in the Neapolitan pizza world. And I've always seen it as a gimmick, but I'm starting to think maybe it's not. Do you know, are you able to read my mind on this one?
I'm not able to read your mind. What do you have in mind?
The hot dogs and French fries.
Well, I wouldn't call it a gimmick, because this has now been a staple of the Neapolitan menus. We can say it was a gimmick probably when you listen to the traditional pizzaioli, and they said the moment when it started to be popular on the Neapolitan menus is because they wanted to start to sort of going after this new trend of the American food coming in Italy, and of course also in Naples. So again, McDonald's, hot dogs and fries and stuff, and that was quite appealing to the kids, especially. And so their proposal was actually putting
kiddie definitely kiddie friendly.
We called it Würstel. That's the Italian name. That sounds German, but it's actually an Italian name, because you would call it Wiener sausage anyway. But anyway, yes, the hot dog and fries, and it was sort of our answer, and it became soon a staple of the Neapolitan pizzerias because it was especially appealing to the kids. And nowadays you can still find it on a lot of menus of traditional pizzerias. It's sort of adverse.
Yeah, I mean, the first. Sorry,
it's mainly debate. It's mainly debate because it's becoming a debate the moment where we're starting to reevaluate the value of pizzas as not anymore like a popular, traditional, very comfort food, but when it started to be also evaluated as a I don't want to use the word gourmet, but a food that could have been treated in a different way, more refined, even becoming high value. So when you talk about hot dog and fries, it's about wow, that is such a very old and kiddie thing, something that you should never put on your menus. And so we came back on saying what is good and what is not. So the do's and don'ts of pizzas. Whereas at the end of the day, you can put everything you want on pizzas, and a lot of pizzerias still put it on their menus because they know that is what kids want.
Yeah, no. I mean, just to kind of explain. Just to explain why I'm asking this. So I remember the first time I saw it in at a very well-respected VPN certified place in New York, and I was kind of horrified because I'd never seen it before. And I suppose the thing that's leading me to think of that as a gimmick is that look, Neapolitans tend to get their knickers in a bunch when anyone adds something kind of non-traditional on a pizza. So to see those two toppings, or even just the French fries, which strikes me as untraditional or non-traditional as you could possibly imagine, it was just it's a curious thing that's accepted, but other things aren't. Like you'd think that would give people carte blanche to put whatever the hell they wanted on a pizza.
You would be surprised how many things that you will not deem traditional you will see on the traditional menu of the pizzerias. Especially, I can tell you another pizza that was really it's really considered as a staple food of kids, or any way of people that just like to have comfort food, is the one made with cream, ham, and mushrooms. And I mean, putting cream on top of like a base of a pizza, that's something that you wouldn't really consider traditional, but there it is. It's in the menu of many traditional pizzerias. Whereas if I have to look at more recent times where everything has become a trend, and you have to find any sort of way to put your business under the spotlight, creating something new. I remember that a few years ago, something that was very trendy and didn't last long was the dough made with activated charcoal, and so black pizzas. And in a period, it was also very popular with mozzarella. Well, luckily, with mozzarella, lasted not so long, but you will see black mozzarellas at one point because they
Yeah,
just use
I've
it
seen.
activated
I've seen.
charcoal. For a while, there was this trend of the katsubushi. Have you ever heard of a katsubushi? It's that kind of tuna, if I remember well. It's a tuna, but anyway, it's a tuna fish that is sliced very thin, and under the heat, it moves all together. So it seems like you have put something that is alive on your plate, because you see this sort of a very thin slices of fish that move, they constantly move. They sort of waves and wiggles maybe, but anyway, yes,
Sorry, Pepe. I've got to cut you off for a second, buddy. We're literally getting kind of like 10% of what you're saying right now. So I'm kind of managing to pick up on enough of what you're saying to have a little bit of a conversation, but the data connection is not good. I don't know if there's any way you can kind of kick your computer to get it to behave, but yeah, my inference ability is getting pushed to the limit here.
Okay, please go ahead with Peter.
But
and
we
let's
got
see
that
if
you like
you
the
can
hot dogs and fries.
Yeah.
That's okay now. So that does open up a lot of space for us to expand our If that's okay, then Katie, bar the door. We can open up to anything, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I just think that a lot of this stuff, we're rediscovering stuff that was already in the past that was semi-successful, and the innovations that are the true gimmicks are the stuff that are not going to be around that much longer, except for this secular change that's happened with the web. That changes everything, because now we see things visually first before we smell or taste them. And you're back, Pepe.
How's the connection, Pepe?
My connection is perfect. I can see you and hear you perfectly. So if you were back at the hot dogs and fries, then I can tell you about the latest trend in the recent years. I don't know if you can hear me. You're nodding, you're smiling. I don't know if you can actually hear me.
Yeah, not really. But
Okay,
I don't know what to do about that. So I'll just okay. I'll stumble through with Peter. I mean, one of the things that, like, thinking back to, what is it, Saturday Night Fever, and the whole John Travolta walking down the street with a double decker like that. That was obviously not a gimmick to sell pizzas, but it's certainly something that is kind of inspired. Part of that whole, okay, let's do something novel with a pizza that doesn't necessarily change the form at all. It's just kind of doing something at a high gloss level to make it sexier or something. And that's the bulk of what I see on social media, is these absurd, like it's the absurdity side of it, rather than what you're talking about, Peter, which is trying to innovate and do something a little bit different that may actually become a thing.
Right. I just keep coming back to, it's always sort of curious to me. I mean, I think it's almost the exception sort of proves the rule, that there are these canonical forms that seemingly work well with the vast majority of people, like cheese and sauce. I mean, that's this as simple as you can get. But that one invention, undoubtedly probably in Naples, was enough. I mean, that changes everything. So that I don't know. I mean, a lot of these things are going to be coming and going, and so long as it doesn't change the ideal forms of pizza, I think we're okay. I think we're good to go with it. I don't think they really affect anything
Well, there's no
significant.
need to reinvent. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, if that's what you're saying.
Right, except to say that, some counterexamples to that, allegedly, I wasn't there at the time, but in New York in the 70s and the 80s, this sort of New York style, as we think of Titano's and John's, sort of the classical old world pre-World War II, was dying out. So that art does die out. Culture can degrade to the extent that it's not recoverable. I don't think we're nearly there yet. In fact, I think this is the golden era of pizza still. And so I don't, these gimmicks and forms, I think the economics and the web are far more significant than these sort of momentary singleton changings of gimmicks
Sure.
that do appear. I think there are far stronger effects that if we need to be concerned about, they're there, but I don't think these are them. For that's
Yeah.
worth.
Yeah. No. I mean, look. I guess it's also you touched upon it kind of going hand in hand with the birth or the surge in social media, and everyone is essentially kind of chasing the same attention economy dime. And there's got to be some, because a lot of the time when I have seen it, it's been pizza places that I know make fantastic pizza, and it's almost sad that they
Right.
feel they have to resort to that rather than letting the quality of the product speak for itself and pull in punters. But I suppose that's the game. And they've got to try and compete for that attention economy, and if they're not doing something zany that's going to pop off, then they might just wallow in obscurity.
Right. I mean, there are examples. I think we had them on the club that pizzeria owners have said they strictly had a pineapple on the menu just to bring the people in.
Yeah, it was
And
Chad.
Chad said
He
that,
said,
yeah.
yeah.
Which was remarkable how popular it did become with a certain sect that will bring you in. And I think he actually dared them, or at least he had some sort of promotion that it was going to cause pain or something. I don't know, some crazy thing like that. But it actually did work. So, I mean, whatever gets them there, so long as it's legal, that's fair game. It is sort of a reflection. I think a lot of these things are sort of, you can turn it around and saying the value is of the reflection of the culture or the degradation of the culture a little bit. So it may not tell a pretty picture of who we are.
I mean, I suppose, like, I wonder why we haven't seen a kind of hot wings challenge type thing in the pizza scene. Not necessarily a kind of man versus food, eat till you perforate your stomach thing, but some sort of eating challengey, hot wingy type thing. Like, that's the one thing I haven't. I mean, it'll be out there somewhere in the blogosphere, but I haven't seen much of it. I guess because it doesn't immediately jump off the page.
You mean the proposition you eat as much as you can and we'll give it away for free or something like that?
Something like that. I mean, but obviously the deal economics don't really make sense for the giveaway for free. But I think you get a T-shirt, or you get your face in the wall, or you get a pizza named after you. There would be myriad ways to run that kind of thing. But I suppose the reason that hasn't kicked off is because it doesn't leap off the page on Instagram. Like, you have to actually explain it and communicate it, and it would have to be a YouTube thing or whatever.
Yeah, I think there are deals where you can have like an 18-inch pizza in a half hour. If you can eat it, it's free or something like that. I think it is something like I've often thought that the bigger it is, the more you eat, the lower the quality. So like that's sort of a tell. Like, and the reverse is true at times. So the more inhospitable the pizzeria is, the more inconvenient it is. Arguably, it's been there for a while, the more successful it would be as a pizzeria. So the better the pizza would be, the worse the surface is. So all these contradictions, maybe that's another topic to talk about. But the more they give, the less good the pizza may be, and the more surly they are, the better the pizza may be. It's sort of a contradiction that way.
Yeah. That made me think of something that, and this isn't pizza related, but it's foodie related, and I'm pretty sure it'll feed into pizza as well. There's definitely, when it comes to pasta and Pepe, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's definitely a kind of north-south divide thing, as in whenever a southern Italian chef posts something with a lot of ingredients and is kind of like overflowing with cheese or sauce, a lot of northern Italian people who I'm friends with will kind of go, "Oh, why so much? Too much?" And it's always the same kind of trope. And so that, I wonder if that feeds into pizza, as in there, it's almost like the basil thing. There are going to be kind of divides as to what is seen as a gimmick and what is just seen as, well, that's just how we do pizza.
Pepe.
Can you hear me, see me? Can you hear me, see me?
Oh, beautiful.
Yep.
We can see you.
Okay.
Oh.
So if your question again is about complaining on the amount of stuff on pizza, but I can see you
kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Less is more. So there is also this topic of talking about the number of ingredients. It's one of the many debates in the pizza world here. So, and it's also quite of a meme, a joke between customers of how going to a pizzeria nowadays, it's comparable to go to a library for the amount of lines that you have to read on a menu when you have to see all the number of ingredients put on a pizza and the description of every single ingredient. And now we have pizzerias where each pizza has at least 4, 5, 6 lines of descriptions. So, but again, this is all part of the gimmick of the communication, where everything that is so detailed and so refined and so associated to this and this other producer or this and this other territory, it's part of your way.
Good point.
Yeah, it's part of your way of communicating that you're not just an everyday pizzeria where you can just have a margherita or again the mushroom and prosciutto, but you're actually trying to do your best to provide your customers the best range of ingredients that your territory can provide. This sometimes it's I mean, it reflects.
So do you see that as Pepe? Do you see that as a gimmick? Like, a pizza place touting, we have tomatoes from this specific village and
It all depends on the quality of the product, because this sometimes, many times reflect the reality of the pizzeria. So that work of communication actually has a point, because what you see on the menu is actually what you're tasting on the pizza. Sometimes it's really just a gimmick. So all marketing by the pizzaiolo or the owner of the pizzeria doesn't even know what they're putting on the menu. So probably they've been advised by some agent or some food supplier that they will provide them with that food, and they have to write that on the menu to attract customers. And then the pizza
it's marketing
you have in front of you, it's just a mashup that doesn't taste anything. I mean, just the fact that you're using a lot of ingredients with some fancy name or a provenance or whatever doesn't mean that the pizzaiolo actually knows what he's doing. And it happened to me so many times. I mean, so many ingredients listed like they were the fanciest thing you could eat, and then at the end of the day was just a tasteless, ridiculous mashup, or even, and sometimes it's not even the ingredients' fault.
Well,
maybe
to that point,
you just don't know how to manage them.
Yeah, no, to that point, Pepe, and I probably need to start to wrap it down after this, but wrap it up after this. But there was a pizza place in London, very highly regarded. They have this thing where they import seawater from Campania to use in their dough, and I went and was very underwhelmed by the pizza, because it was, as you described, Pepe, you taught me the term all'ombra, like basically stingy in the sauce. And the dough was good, but it was no better than any other well-made Neapolitan dough. So the fact that they're, schlepping seawater in from, the Gulf of Naples every day is a complete gimmick. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't improve anything. Put a bit of salt in your water, and that accomplishes the same mission. But yeah, point well taken, Pepe. Okay. I think what's the time? Yeah, we've got 5 minutes, so probably time to start wrapping up. Next week's show was supposed to be Pepe, but Pepe is doing something more exciting and often is Gulliver's somewhere. So we are going to allow our resident historian Peter to jump into the breach. So thank you for that, Peter. Do you want to kind of give a quick teaser on what you're thinking of talking about?
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about the history of pizza. It's a subject that's sort of dear to my heart. I've been working on it for 14 years. And the question that I want to raise is, do we care about it, and should we care about it? That seemingly people sort of nod and sort of say, yeah, of course we care about it. But when I talk about it, it's interesting the reactions that I get and what I get a reaction to and what people are just bored blue by. It doesn't, I can tell they don't really care about it that much. And I really have to work on
kind of
how
glaze
to
over
tell the story.
or
Glaze over, not remembering the things I say when they're the major whole point of the things I'm saying. I just find people typically aren't receptive to it, and I'm interested as to why they're not, because I find it so compelling. And I think there's a percentage of the people who honestly do find it very compelling, but it's like 5% or so. So that's
I think it speaks to a slightly more kind of boffin-y demographic, but this is one of the things that I really respect and appreciate.
You've got to define that for me. Boffin-y?
But geeky, nerdy.
Okay, geeky. Okay.
But this is like yourself and Pepe and Colin in New Haven. This is part of what's so cool about what you guys do, that you're actually fleshing out the history of the stuff. So look forward to that. That'll be good. And Pepe, if obviously, well, we can revisit it, Pepe. We'll tee it up, and it'll be a short another half an hour, so we can do a part 2 when you're able to join, because we'd obviously love to have your input on it, Pepe. I think that just about does it. If you enjoyed that, please give the show a thumbs up and a subscription. The show is also available in the podcast universe, wherever you normally get your podcasts. And you can find us on TikTok and Instagram under the handle I Need Pizza Club, all one word. Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good Friday, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Pepe.
Thank you so much, guys.
See you later, Pepe. Have fun, whatever you're doing next week. Ciao.